So we start to wonder, what happens when the universe whispers something we're not ready to hear? There are moments in physics that feel like ruptures in reality itself, turning points where one observation doesn't just challenge our understanding, it destroys it. And right now, we're standing on the edge of one of those moments. Picture this, July. A faint spark of light flickers against the endless black. At first, nothing to see here, just another anonymous wanderer drifting through the cosmic dark. But then, something changes. That small, unremarkable dot begins to evolve into a mystery so deep it threatens to rewrite the laws of what we thought was real. We call it 3I Atlas, the third confirmed visitor from beyond our solar neighborhood. But even that name feels almost childish now, because what we're watching refuses to play by any rule book we've ever written. It doesn't act like a comet. It doesn't move like an asteroid. It doesn't behave like anything we've ever cataloged in all of human history. Something about it is wrong, or maybe too right. Imagine this, an object slicing through space at 152,000 miles per hour. Let that sink in. That's not speed, it's violence. For context, your average asteroid cruises at around 20,000 or 30,000 miles per hour. But this is something else entirely. It's operating on a level that makes the rest of our cosmic neighborhood look frozen in place. And here's where things start to get truly eerie. When scientists traced its path backward, rewinding time itself, they uncovered a chilling truth. Atlas didn't come from the asteroid belt. It didn't come from the Kuiper belt, not even from the distant Oort cloud. No, this traveler came from between the stars, from the silent abyss that separates suns, a wanderer from the void, a fragment of something ancient, drifting for tens of thousands, maybe millions of years through absolute darkness before quietly crossing our doorstep. At first, the scientific world stayed calm, curious but careful. After all, we'd been here before, hadn't we? 2017, Oumuamua, the first interstellar visitor. 2019, 2I/Borisov, the second. So maybe they thought this was just another lonely shard from some far-off system. They tracked it, measured it, logged every flicker of light. For months, Atlas remained silent, a ghost gliding through the solar system's gears. But then, everything changed. In one instant, without warning, the silence shattered. Across the planet, radio telescopes listening to the cosmos suddenly lit up. Not with random noise, not with static, but with intent, a signal, focused, precise, deliberate. It struck detectors on opposite sides of Earth, synchronized, undeniable. And for the first time, humanity had to ask a question it has feared for centuries. What if the universe isn't silent after all? The universe, silent for billions of years, suddenly finds a voice. Was it a trick of the atmosphere, a strange distortion, maybe a flare from our own sun confusing the instruments, or something deeper, a transmission from an intelligence we barely understand? The honest answer? We still don't know, but here's what lingers. Atlas sent that signal once, cutting through the dark with razor-clear intent. And if it happened once, what would stop it from happening again? That one question keeps researchers locked to their screens long past midnight. If the mystery ended there, we'd already have enough to study for decades. But 3I Atlas refuses to follow any rule book. The anomalies pile up, one after another, each stranger than the last. So let's examine what makes this object so unsettling. First, the luminosity. We usually size up space objects by how they reflect sunlight. Natural rocks, scarred by radiation, cratered by ancient impacts, have rough, irregular skins. They swallow and scatter light in messy ways, dull, inconsistent. Atlas is the opposite. It shines. Its surface throws back light with a crisp intensity that feels less like primordial stone and more like refined metal. When the Webb Space Telescope focused on it, the data showed something startling. Photons bouncing off with a steady, uniform pattern, suggesting extreme smoothness, almost engineered consistency. We rarely, if ever, use language like that for nature's leftover debris. Next, the rotation. Natural objects don't spin gracefully. They tumble, wobble, misbehave. Their rotations drift and stutter. Atlas rotates with mathematical precision. It holds specific orientations toward our instruments, as if following choreography. The brightness stays stable. The timing doesn't slip. What we're watching looks less like a stray rock and more like an intentionally oriented mechanism, something that seems to know which face to show us. Finally, the thermal signature. When Webb's infrared sensors locked onto 3I Atlas, researchers expected the usual thermal patchwork, warm and cool zones sliding in and out as sunlight and shadow trade places. That is not what appeared. One side stayed consistently hotter than the other. So we have to ask, how? Either 3I Atlas is generating heat from within, a behavior no natural comet has shown, or it's managing heat on purpose. Picture a vessel with radiators, technology that moves and sheds heat across its exterior. The implications stop you cold. Everything we thought we knew suddenly feels fragile. Now, let's talk about what 3I Atlas is actually made of. The spectroscopic analysis didn't just surprise scientists, it stunned them. Normally, when a comet nears the sun, we detect water vapor pouring from its surface. But Atlas? It released carbon dioxide at levels nearly 10 times higher than anything ever recorded. And then came the shock that left researchers speechless, the metals. Nickel flows from this object in astonishing quantities, while iron, which should dominate every known comet, is almost completely missing. That single fact flips centuries of cosmic data upside down. But the weirdness doesn't stop there. The carbon-based molecules we're detecting aren't random chains of atoms drifting in the void. They're structured, intricate, organized in ways that suggest complexity, patterns we usually see only in living systems or engineered materials. This isn't the messy chemistry of nature's leftovers. It feels deliberate. Now let's look inside. Density readings reveal something no natural formation should have. Emptiness. 3I Atlas isn't solid all the way through. It has voids, internal cavities, layered zones like levels of construction. That shouldn't exist. Celestial bodies form through chaos. Dust clumping into rock, rock fusing under gravity, mass compressing tighter and tighter until it's solid throughout. Hollow interiors collapse over time. Yet Atlas rings with hollowness, as if its very design was chosen that way. And here's where things go from strange to almost unbelievable. Atlas is changing course, not in dramatic bursts or fiery thrusts, but in tiny controlled motions, gentle accelerations, subtle course corrections, adjustments so small they're almost invisible, yet our instruments confirm every one of them. There's no exhaust, no vapor plume, no natural explanation, but the data doesn't lie. Its velocity shifts, its direction changes, just enough to notice. Now comes the part that keeps scientists awake at night. These adjustments don't happen randomly. They happen when Earth has the best possible line of sight, as if whatever's behind these maneuvers knows we're watching and wants to be seen. Before you call it impossible, remember Oumuamua. Back in 2017, that mysterious visitor also accelerated with no visible cause. The mainstream theory blamed sunlight, radiation pressure pushing on a strange pancake flat surface. But that idea starts to crumble now, because we're watching the same behavior repeat itself with 3I Atlas. And this time the timing matches our observation windows. That's no coincidence. It feels like a pattern, a design. Which brings us to the timeline, and it's chilling. For billions of years, nothing. Silence. Then suddenly, 2017, Oumuamua, that bizarre cigar-shaped enigma spinning through our solar system, speeding up for no reason. 2 years later, 2019, Borisov, another interstellar visitor. And now, 3I Atlas. Something has changed. The quiet of space is over. It seemed at first more familiar. Borisov carried the glowing tail and hazy coma we expect from comets, a reassuring sight in an otherwise unpredictable cosmos. And yet, Even it defied expectation, racing through our solar neighborhood at velocities beyond almost anything nature had ever produced. And now, here we are in 2025. 3I Atlas has arrived, and it carries within it the most perplexing traits of both its predecessors: extraordinary speed, mirror-like reflectivity, chemical fingerprints that make no logical sense, mysterious shifts in its path, and new anomalies that neither Oumuamua nor Borisov ever displayed. Pause for a moment and think about this sequence. 3 interstellar visitors in less than 10 years, after billions of years of total cosmic silence. The odds against that are astronomical. The probability borders on impossible, unless this isn't random at all, unless what we're seeing is not coincidence but intent. And this is where the mystery deepens. When the Webb telescope focused its gaze on 3I Atlas, what it found didn't just challenge expectations, it tore through the very fabric of what we call known science. The spectroscopic data revealed chemistry that simply doesn't exist in any of our reference libraries. We're talking about organized carbon architectures, intricate molecular arrangements that hint at purposeful design rather than chaotic natural formation. The surface itself shows geometric precision, deliberate symmetry, sharp angles, consistent patterns. Not the scars of a drifting rock, but the lines of construction. Even the heat map defies nature. Temperatures remain stable, eerily stable, across the surface as though someone or something were regulating it. Density scans tell the same story: hollowness, internal chambers, an object that resonates with engineered space inside. And then, the most unsettling discovery of all. Webb detected electromagnetic activity radiating from it. Not background noise, not random static, structured patterns, repeating intervals, coherence. The kind of signal that makes even the most skeptical astrophysicist lean back in their chair and whisper, "This isn't normal." Under ordinary circumstances, a discovery like this would ignite the scientific world. Papers would flood academic journals. Data would pour into public archives. Researchers everywhere would tear apart every image, every reading, every anomaly. But this time, silence. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, an institution known for its transparency and openness, abruptly locked down. Observation logs vanished from public access. Data requests came back redacted into meaninglessness or denied outright, and then others followed. The European Space Agency mirrored NASA's blackout within days. International research teams, collaborations that had thrived for decades, suddenly fractured. Scientists were reassigned without explanation, cut out of meetings, isolated from ongoing analysis. The data stream dried up. The conversation stopped. The most important discovery of the century, buried under layers of silence. Freedom of Information Act requests finally came back, and what they revealed was almost insulting. Pages so blacked out they were nothing but blocks of ink. Whole paragraphs erased, replaced by one repeated phrase: national security concerns. National security, about a comet. Let that sink in. What possible security risk could a chunk of ice and rock pose from millions of miles away? Unless, of course, it isn't just that. And then there's the timing. The silence began at the exact moment the Webb telescope uncovered its most disturbing data. The early reports showing unusual brightness and velocity, those were public, released freely. But the second the spectroscopic analysis hinted at something artificial, something built, the curtain dropped. Access vanished. That leaves us facing two possibilities, both extraordinary. First, perhaps agencies have found something so world-shattering that they believe humanity isn't psychologically ready to face it. Or second, they've seen something they can't explain, something that frightens them precisely because it breaks every rule they understand. Neither explanation is comforting, and this brings us back to the first anomaly, the signal. A radio burst powerful enough to register across multiple continents, synchronized to the second. If it was real, and we have no hard evidence to dismiss it as error, then 3I Atlas isn't just reflecting light. It's transmitting, it's speaking. So the question becomes, to whom? Is it calling to us, trying to initiate contact, or is it signaling something or someone else? Another intelligence we haven't yet perceived? Perhaps a network of systems operating on scales and frequencies beyond human imagination? Now step back for a moment and flip the perspective. Imagine you're part of a civilization far older than ours, quietly observing humanity's slow awakening. For thousands of years, Earth was blind, our telescopes too crude, our awareness too small to notice anything moving beyond the nearby planets. But then, in the 21st century, everything changes. Suddenly, our instruments are sharp enough to spot those faint travelers in the dark, to track their paths, analyze their chemistry, decode their light. What better time for an evaluation? So you send test objects. First comes Oumuamua, a shape that moves faster than physics allows, forcing us to question propulsion itself. Then Borisov, bearing chemistry that rewrites our scientific textbooks. And finally, 3I Atlas, an object of impossible geometry, hollow interiors, and perhaps communication. See the pattern? Each visitor more complex than the last. Each one revealing just a little more. It doesn't feel random anymore. It feels like a sequence, a message unfolding step by step. Each visitor has raised the stakes. Each one pushes the limits of what we can understand. Never enough to spark chaos, but just enough to make us question everything we thought was certain. It feels deliberate, almost as if we're being prepared for something far greater. That's the theory quietly circulating among certain scientists, a whisper rather than a declaration. Maybe these objects aren't random debris from shattered worlds. Maybe they're reconnaissance missions, not the kind that land or announce themselves, but silent evaluators asking humanity a series of impossible questions. Have you learned to truly see what's in front of you? Can you let go of your assumptions and confront evidence that defies your models? Are you ready, intellectually, emotionally, to question reality itself? It's not a test of our machines, it's a test of our minds, a measure of our ability to stay curious when faced with the unexplainable. Of course, we must be clear, this remains speculation. Natural explanations still exist. Perhaps we're witnessing unfamiliar forms of chemistry or interstellar processes our physics can't yet describe. But the pattern repeating across these three visitors is impossible to dismiss. And the heavy veil of secrecy surrounding 3I Atlas suggests that behind closed doors, the same haunting questions are being asked, not by dreamers, but by officials. So here we are, standing between two futures. In one, 3I Atlas is simply the strangest natural object ever found. That alone would rewrite planetary science. We'd rebuild our models of chemistry, dynamics, and formation from the ground up. It would be a revolution in knowledge, but the other possibility changes everything. If even a fraction of these anomalies hold true, if those trajectory shifts were deliberate, if the hollow structure proves real, if that radio transmission was intentional, then we may be witnessing humanity's first confirmed contact with intelligence beyond Earth. Just consider that for a moment. For all of human history, we've believed the universe to be a vast, empty stage, a place where we play out our brief existence in cosmic solitude. We've looked up and imagined we were alone in the dark. But what if we were wrong? What if we've never truly been alone? And what if the eyes we thought were ours, the telescopes, the probes, the signals we send into the void, were never the ones doing the watching? What if we are the ones being watched? Every telescope aimed skyward, every spacecraft launched into the black, every signal we've sent out into the silence. What if none of it vanished into nothingness after all? What if for the first time the silence is answering back? Maybe it's all already been received, analyzed, decoded, quietly archived. Maybe 3I Atlas isn't just passing through space. Maybe it's a mirror reflecting something far more intimate, us. A species suddenly aware that it might be under observation. And yes, that realization carries a chill, an unease that settles deep, but it also awakens something extraordinary. Science has never been about comfort. It's never been about protecting illusions. It is about courage, the kind that stares straight into the unknown and refuses to look away. The pursuit of truth demands that bravery, no matter how unsettling the truth may be. As 3I Atlas drifts deeper into the inner solar system, our duty becomes clear. We must keep watching. We must insist on transparency from the institutions locking away their data. Every anomaly must be tested. Every result must be verified. Every assumption must be challenged without hesitation. Because somewhere out there beyond the edge of our light, an answer exists. And whatever it is, it may be far more astonishing and far more reality-shattering than we dare to imagine. So remember this moment, remember this name, 3I Atlas, an object that broke every rule, defied every expectation, and crossed our threshold carrying mysteries we still can't explain. Perhaps it's a messenger, bringing knowledge we've only begun to decode. Perhaps it's a warning, a sign of something approaching that we have yet to recognize. Or perhaps it's a test, an elaborate puzzle designed to measure whether our species is ready for what comes next. Whatever the truth turns out to be, one thing is certain: it has already changed us. It has pushed our collective imagination beyond the boundaries of comfort and forced science to confront the impossible. And that is the true gift of discoveries like this. They remind us that the universe cannot be tamed into neat explanations or boxed into equations. It is alive, it is evolving, it is infinitely mysterious, and yes, it is speaking to us if we have the courage to listen.